Welcome to the Brook, bearing clusters of truth with a splash of common sense.
Welcome to the Brook on Canaan Radio. I am Will, and I am in the studio today with David.
Yes.
Brother Peter.
Hello.
JT up in the booth, and as you can see, we're missing Pastor today. He is not here, for he is gone.
We can't get the whole group together. Man, I sound really loud. It's just me, though.
Yeah, there you go.
Last week we didn't have JT. This week we don't have Pastor.
We're just...
I volunteer, Nick. No.
You volunteer to be gone next? That's perfect. Anyway.
Actually, no, in 2
roof.
weeks, I will... No. Never mind, it's 4 weeks. It's like the
4
first
weeks you won't be
Saturday
here.
or second Saturday of May, I won't be here.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to be here.
Me
Someone
too.
will be.
Me too. We love to hear from our listeners during the show, and we want to hear from you. A great way to be in touch with us throughout the show is to request a song. You can send us a text at 920-940-8275 to request that song, or if you're joining us on YouTube, you can, in the chat, just request a song there, and we will get that song queued up to play during the broadcast. If you'd like to send us a direct message on Instagram or on Twitter, our handle is @Canaan_radio. You can also follow us.
Yeah.
Follow us on those social media platforms.
Subscribe, follow,
exactly.
like.
On YouTube, be sure to subscribe to us. And if you click the little notification bell, it will let you know when we get ready to go live. Usually we start the live stream about half an hour before we actually start the broadcast. So you'll be able to hear it there. And for those of you who are joining us on Canaan Radio, listening to the radio station, you can either make your way over to YouTube, youtube.com/Canaan Radio to listen, or you can continue to listen on Canaan Radio, either online or on the app or wherever it is you're listening. You can request a song there. Again, that phone number is 920-940-8275. And with that, it is time for... Let's get ready to ramble.
Let's ramble.
Yeah, let's do it.
What do we got to ramble about?
I think you had suggested a topic.
I did, but I was just saying that so someone else could fill in the space.
Acorns? Was that really? No,
Acorns?
it was nothing to do with acorns.
No. It was...
It's hailing right now.
Yeah, well,
It's
it was. Is that considered hail, though?
Yes.
When it's like teeny...
Yes. It's not sleet. Sleet is just slush.
My question is there
And it's
like
not rain.
do they
And
have
it's
like a
not snow.
measurement for how big that is? Do they say
don't know.
once it gets
All right,
above a
let's
certain
look it up.
size?
I think hail is what will put a dent in your car.
So this is a heavy form of snow, is what
Yeah.
you're saying? Oh, okay.
This is like pebbles. It's like not even pebble sized. We've had some weird weather this week. It
just says pellets of frozen rain, which fall in showers from cumulonimbus clouds.
ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess it's hail.
Technically, yeah.
Rats.
Oh, well.
Whatever.
At least it's non-damaging.
But it rained a little bit today.
Mm-hmm.
It was sunny this morning. Mm-hmm. It was sunny and kind of warm. I didn't even
It's like
wear a
45
jacket
degrees
out
when we
visiting.
started. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't bad.
Got up to almost 60 today.
Did you see our
Somewhere in
snowman? Looks like someone
Yes.
decapitated him. I don't know who, or
Fell
his
over.
head just fell over.
He died.
If you're wondering, snowman. What are you talking about, snowman?
It was a slush man.
It was an ice man by the time we got done with him. It snowed yesterday.
He was dripping.
Yesterday?
Yeah,
he was
it was
literally
yesterday.
dripping. I don't know if you call it ice man. He never really froze. It was slush.
It was.
It froze
No,
last night.
it was once you.
mush man.
It was pretty fun because we had what? Maybe how much snow do you think we got? Like
3 inches.
an inch and a half.
No,
wasn't
3
three.
inches.
3.
It wasn't
I don't
three
think it was. Well, I think it was
had
3 inches of snow.
2
but I don't think
inches
it,
on my car.
Yes, that's true.
in
I
the
just
morning.
don't think it accumulated.
And then...
Okay. 3 inches. So we rolled it. It was wet, so it snowed, and then it turned into rain.
And it rained
so-
for like.
And so you just get this mush snow, but like you start a snowball, and it just
Grabs everything.
yeah,
it's
it
like
just
this huge.
it's
grass.
pulling up grass
Yes.
and dirt and nastiness. And
But we made a
that stuff.
snowman. We made a pretty good sized one.
I think I got my camera a little bit too bright. That's why brother Jeff's saying that I look a little fuzzy. What's that? All of them are
just
too
need
bright.
a
No, David looks
powder.
fine.
I look fine. I always look good though.
David looks good. Mine looks a little bright.
So, on that topic,
Anyway, wait, you were going to tell
we're
us. someone's gonna
accepting
tell us about, yeah.
Oh dear, no.
Changing subjects.
Go ahead.
So we've been working
I'm gonna
on
fix this camera.
we've been working on this corner property.
Yes.
This past week and clearing out some things, and
Some things.
wow, just some things are unmentionable.
Yes.
But I was thinking maybe we could go around and the most
Interesting thing that we found.
/ disgusting / wow, does that even exist? Item. I don't know. And we've been finding a lot of.
I'm trying to think of the different weird things that we found over there.
I blocked them out of my memory. Just
I know.
To be honest, they're just.
There's just so much junk.
It is literally.
Yeah, that's good.
You watch. What that show Hoarders? Mm-hmm. It is just like that, and you just wonder. I mean, there is absolutely no way to walk anywhere except for a tiny little path, and even then, some of the roads are completely blocked.
And
so.
it's not like it's valuable stuff.
Yeah.
You know, once in a while we'll come across something that might be like have some value. One thing that's over there I'm curious about is all of the baseball cards, or just actually just what are those called?
Baseball cards.
Some of them are sports cards.
Some of them are football. Some are.
Did you see what he
Collectibles,
found? He found a whole nother
I saw
bag
it.
of them, like
Yeah.
thousands of them.
Yeah, but they were like mint condition packaging. So,
They have the plastic card case carry or
well, I'm talking like when you would buy these were like a collector's edition of like 33 cards. So, for instance, the one package that I found, it was a Toys R Us special edition, and I think Topps is the name of the company?
No.
Topps is the name of the actual baseball card company.
Yeah, I
they
don't know.
partnered with them. Anyway, but it was 33 baseball cards, and it was from like 89 was when they released it. But the card case itself looked great. The cards looked
Looked it up to see
perfect.
what it was
Looked it
worth.
up, and it was about $25-$26 for one.
for that case.
Yeah, for that. Well, that's how much they would sell for right
And
now.
there was probably 100 of them in there.
I don't know. There was a bunch. So,
There was a lot. I don't know if you could. The thing is finding someone that would actually
no.
Take the time.
take the
go
time to
through
sell them.
and sell them.
Yeah.
I mean,
But-
you can make some stuff. I mean, there's as far as the baseball cards, the first thing we found was a box like the first week of like 200 of them, and then later on we found a whole tote full of these
Yes.
cases. So there's thousands of cards over there, and that's just one of the many weird things. Of course, there's between those finds like 5 million pieces of trash
Yes.
and disgusting whatevers.
We took the first 3 days just to clear out the outside,
The courtyard, yeah.
and that's not even. We haven't even touched near the actual barn area.
Yeah.
Right.
We've gone closer to the apartments.
Yeah,
But
we're able to pull in a trailer now.
yeah, pulling the trailer. How many loads do you think we've taken out total?
Loads, maybe 6. As far as
Tonnage. Tell me what do you-
tonnage, I know for trash itself, we're about 15 to 20,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So that's 7 to 10 tons.
Well, the
And
first
then
day alone, we took out 6.
as far
Oh, that's
as
true.
6
That
tons.
is true.
The first day.
Well,
Oh, that
between
was
the first
metal.
and
That was
second.
metal, though. That was all metal.
How much? No, for tonnage for metal was 6 tons. Oh wow! So we are
Yeah, we're in
we're in
close to
30,000
30, yeah.
plus pounds worth of of trash.
How much do you think how much of a dent have we really put in that property?
Yeah.
We've not even done
quarter?
we're not even the first.
Quarter?
Not even a quarter?
Wow,
First
wishful
half.
thinking.
Yeah,
right
I don't
there.
think we're even.
We're not
into
even
a
done with
quarter.
the first half.
If
Well, definitely.
Well, definitely not. I think 25% would be a high estimate.
Yeah. Maybe
just to be
15,
honest.
15%.
Because we still haven't even really made a dent in that third room, that third apartment.
Right.
And that one's chock full.
That one is completely compared. I think it has the same amount of stuff as were in the first two combined. Because the first two you could.
And when we're cleaning the inside stuff out, you can't really just chuck it all. You got to kind of go through it because you're looking for keys for this
Yeah,
car.
keys for some of those vehicles.
You found $10, $11 and
I found
just a
$11 in
random
cash,
bag.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of different
A bunch
weird
of
That's good
items.
stuff. I mean,
there's a lot of
Found some
power
power
tools.
tools.
We found the power tools,
Decent stuff
that
like
old
that.
radio thing, whatever that is. That old what was that? Do we ever figure out what that was? A steamer?
Oh,
yeah, okay, so it was like an old ironing, like an
iron
steam,
press.
an iron press,
You put
but
your
it would
pant
like
leg
roll
on it, all
but
the
it
way
would
on that
roll.
thing. It was pretty cool.
The actual thing rolled. So I don't exactly. I'm what I'm saying. I don't exactly understand. Like maybe it was sheets. That would make sense, but I don't understand how you would actually iron
Yeah.
the clothing with that.
But I think you put it through, and as it rolls, you grab the top.
It might
Let
that
it stretch
actually,
it, don't you think? Like if you put
No,
a T-shirt
you're
in
not
there.
pulling on it. You just put it on there, and it rolls it, and it comes out the top, and you just kind of hold it.
So like a pizza,
Like a Laffy-
pizza
like a
thing
stretch-
roller that you just put it in
Yeah.
and it just flattens it.
don't
Yeah.
pasta. It's a pasta.
Yeah.
roller.
But anyway, how much was that on
A good condition one was 500.
$500.
Yeah.
So-
the bad ones I was seeing were 300.
Yeah.
So
Well, this
this
one
was
was
definitely a bad one.
Missing some
Yeah,
wheels.
it was
dented.
But it's one of those things where you don't know that you have to stop and
Yeah.
and look up some of those things because you're like, well, first of all, this was back in here for a reason. Sometimes it
Maybe
doesn't
it
have a
wasn't.
reason. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't need a reason. But yeah, there's been some interesting. There's a ton of appliances, old just
There's a nice microwave in there.
microwaves and
I
dryers.
don't know if it
and,
works, but
And there was a Keurig, and then there's portable AC units and
that kind of thing.
refrigerators. The number of refrigerators.
the building
is crazy.
that we're talking about used to be an apartment. It was
I think it used to be part of a motel. I think it was part
of.
of a motel. That was like
Something like that, yeah.
That barn used to be like a little store. That's what it looks like. That was like a store, but you could also like rent for the night.
Or a week or a month, that kind of
Whatever.
thing, I think is...
In the back. Those look more like hotel.
Someone
like
asked me about the
motel style
property, and they
rooms.
told me a little bit about that property, but it seemed to be one of the things that used to be. Like back in the 80s, it used to be...
Back when this
like the
used to be a
Cedar Lodge or
well-traveled,
something like that.
more traveled road before the interstate
Yeah.
came in.
And that's what crazy is. As soon as we started throwing stuff away and working over there, all of the people
Yeah.
that came over and were like poking their head in or
What's going on?
what's going on or whatever.
You going to keep that?
Yeah. Stay out.
So,
Anyway, I
Fun
guess
week.
I'm good with. That's all. That's all we had to ramble about.
That's it.
no,
Yeah.
there's more to ramble about. Those applications.
I'm gonna just continue on. Last week's episode is available as a podcast. Actually, we're putting
Almost.
up the last 2 or 3. I think are going to be up. But you'll be able to listen to those. You watch those on YouTube. You can also listen to them wherever podcasts can be listened to. Remember, you can request a song during the show by texting us at 920-940-8275 or on Twitter and Instagram by direct messaging us at the handle at Canaan_radio. With that, we're going to play our first song, Forever Settled by the Committed Quartet. Hot off the wine press, where we deliver nothing but the freshest of fresh news. And of course, Pastor is not with us today, so I figure we'll talk a little bit about where he's at and what he's doing. Pastor is headed to Colorado. I'm not sure if he's going to get there later tonight, I think.
I don't know.
I'm not, I haven't been updated on his status. But anyway, he is going to be at Bible Baptist Church in Olathe, Colorado. I get that right? Olathe. Ole.
I think
He's going to be Olathe, Colorado, where Pastor Gabe Skillo is having Pastor Reeves come out and preach at a revival that will be going until Wednesday, or is it Tuesday?
Well-
It's Sunday night. It's
I think it's Tuesday.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, right?
I think so.
So Pastor's there, and of course Mrs. Reeves is with Pastor. It's kind of surprising that she was able to make it with him, but Mrs. Reeves, thank you for all those who have been keeping Mrs. Reeves in your prayers. Mrs. Reeves had surgery which day?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. And it looks like, as far as the reports go, that everything looks good. So, of course, we'll be waiting to hear back a little more from the doctors, and I'm sure she'll have follow-up appointments, so you'll be updated on that. But Mrs. Reeves, she was in the chat as well, saying that she's feeling better every day. So continue to keep her in your prayers as they head that way and get there. So that's what I got as far as news.
Good. Do you want to do the tent first?
Yeah, this past week we set up our tent. We do it every year. Usually it's for our fireworks stand during the summertime, but this year we set it up a couple months early for our spring program. Of course, tomorrow we have Miss Christie. She has headed up our community cleanup Sunday, and we are planning 3 satellite services at 3 different parks in our community, and we're going to start those at 10:30 at each of those locations, and have a shortened service, and then we're going to spend about an hour and a half going to different portions of our city and just doing community cleanup, picking up trash, garbage, whatever it is.
Each team has a different color
Trash bag.
trash bag, basically their team color. You got blue, yellow, and is yours red. So that will be fun, going to different parts of North Platte and just picking up trash. And the team that has the most bags of trash
trash.
wins.
Yeah, see,
Do we know what we win?
That's just so easy to fudge. I'm sorry, but
Here's
one
one thing. Here's a bag. Blow it up. Tie it.
Well, I wasn't thinking just that, but okay. I was thinking more newspaper, crumple it up, throw it in there, and
we
hey,
got
one
some
newspaper would
trash
make
from
a
over
whole
there.
bag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have talked this week about going over to the property that we've been cleaning out and, filling that up. Or filling
I
trash
think we
bags
would have
with
run
that.
out of trash bags.
We would.
for sure.
We would. But technically it's on my side. So,
First come, first serve, my friend. Cool.
Okay, I don't have anything else to add during this hot off the wine press. I think we hit all the news.
Yep,
didn't we?
I think we did.
Okay, so we're going to run into the next segment. Remember, you can request a song during the show by texting us 920-940-8275 as long as we can, stay running.
We should
That'd
just
be great.
change the name of this to just off.
Just off, yeah.
Off.
No hot off the wine press, it's just off.
Off?
A little off.
Because we're not on. We are now.
Anyway,
Wow.
920-940-8275. You can request your songs. We're going to go ahead and go straight to another song. I've Won by the Faith Men. We'll be right back. This week we're talking about Hutson Taylor and Lottie Moon. First, we'll start with Hutson Taylor. In September of 1853, a little three-mast clipper slipped quietly out of the Liverpool Harbor. This is going to be a rough one if I have to keep doing this. Liverpool Harbor with Hutson Taylor, a wild-eyed 21-year-old missionary. He was headed for a country that was just coming into the Christian West's consciousness. Only a few dozen missionaries were stationed there. By the time Taylor died half a century later, however, China was viewed as the most fertile and challenging of mission fields, as thousands volunteered annually to serve there. Hutson Taylor was born to James and Amelia Taylor, a Methodist couple fascinated with the Far East, who had prayed for their newborn, saying, "Grant that he may work for you in China." Years later, a teenage Hutson experienced a spiritual birth during an immense time of prayer as he lay with arms outstretched, as later he put, before him with unspeakable awe and unspeakable joy, he accepted Christ. He spent the next years in frantic preparation, learning the rudiments of medicine, studying Mandarin, and immersing himself even deeper into the Bible and prayer. His ship arrived in Shanghai, one of 5 treaty ports China had opened to foreigners following its first Opium War with England. Taylor, for his part, was not happy with most missionaries he saw. He believed they were worldly and spent too much time with English businessmen and diplomats who needed their services as translators. Instead, Taylor wanted the Christian faith taken to the interior of China. So within months of arriving, and the native language still a challenge, Taylor, along with Joseph Edkins, set off for the interior, setting sail down the Huangpu River, distributing Chinese Bibles in tracts. When the Chinese Evangelization Society, which had sponsored Taylor, proved incapable of paying its missionaries in 1857, Taylor resigned and became an independent missionary, trusting God to meet his needs. The same year, he married Maria Dyer, daughter of missionaries stationed in China. He continued to pour himself into his work, and his small church in Ningpo grew to 21 members. But by 1861, he became seriously ill, most likely hepatitis, and was forced to return to England to recover. In England, the restless Taylor continued translating the Bible into Chinese, a work he had begun in China. He studied to become a midwife and recruited more missionaries. Troubled that people in England seemed to have little interest in China, he wrote China, its spiritual need and claims. In one passage, he scolded, "Can all the Christians in England sit still with folded arms while these multitudes in China are perishing for lack of knowledge, for lack of that knowledge which England possesses so richly?" Taylor became convinced that a special organization was needed to evangelize the interior of China. He made plans to recruit 24 missionaries, 2 for each of the 11 unreached inland provinces and 2 for Mongolia. It was a visionary plan that would have left veteran recruiters breathless. It would increase the number of China missionaries by 25%. Taylor himself was racked with doubt. He worried about sending men and women unprotected into the interior. At the same time, he despaired for the millions of Chinese who were dying without the hope of the gospel. In 1865, he wrote in his diary, "For 2 or 3 years, intense conflict. Thought I should lose my mind." A friend invited him to the south coast of England, to Brighton, for a break, and it was there while walking along the beach that Taylor's gloom lifted. "There the Lord conquered my unbelief, and I surrendered myself to God for his service. I told him that all the responsibility as to the issues and consequences must rest with him, that as his servant it was mine to obey and to follow him." His new mission, which he called the China Inland Mission, or CIM, had a number of distinctive features, including this: its missionaries would have no guaranteed salaries, nor could they appeal for funds. They would simply trust God to supply their needs. Furthermore, its missionaries would adopt Chinese dress and then present the gospel into the China interior. Within a year of his breakthrough, Taylor, his wife, and 4 children, and 16 young missionaries sailed from London to join 5 others already in China, working under Taylor's direction. Taylor continued to make enormous demands upon himself. He saw more than 200 patients daily when he first returned. And on CIM missionaries, some of whom balked. Louis Nicole, who accused Taylor of tyranny, had to be dismissed. Some CIM missionaries, in the wake of this and other controversies, left to join other missions. But in 1876, with 52 missionaries, CIM constituted 1/5 of the missionary force in China. Because there continued to be so many Chinese to reach, Taylor instituted another radical policy. He sent unmarried women into the interior, a move criticized by many veterans. But Taylor's boldness knew no bounds, and in 1881 he asked God for another 70 missionaries by the close of 1884. He got 76. In late 1886, Taylor prayed for another 100 within the year. By November of 1887, he announced 102 candidates had been accepted for service. His leadership style and high ideals created enormous strains between the London and Chinese councils of the CIM. London thought Taylor autocratic. Taylor said he was only doing what he thought was best for the work and then demanded more commitment from others. "China is not to be won for Christ by quiet, ease-loving men and women," he wrote. "The stamp of men and women we need is such as will put Jesus, China, and souls first and foremost in everything and at every time. Even life itself must be secondary." Taylor's grueling work pace both in China and abroad, to England, the United States, and Canada on speaking engagements and to recruit, was carried on despite Taylor's poor health and his bouts with discouragement. In 1900, it became too much, and he had a complete physical and mental breakdown. The personal costs of Taylor's vision was high on his family as well. His wife, Maria, died at age 33, and 4 of 8 of their children died before they reached the age of 10. Taylor eventually married Janine Faulding, another CIM missionary. Between his work ethic and his absolute trust in God, despite never soliciting funds, his CIM grew and prospered. He inspired thousands to forsake the comforts of the West to bring the Christian message to the vast and unknown interior of China. Though mission work in China was interrupted by the communist takeover in 1949, the CIM continues to this day under the name Overseas Missionary Fellowship International. Taylor died in 1905. And with that, we'll begin Lottie Moon. Hers is a little bit shorter. Lottie Moon was born to Charles and Diggs Moon on December 12, 1840, in Albemarle. I looked up how to pronounce it. It's really difficult, but it's in Virginia. Lottie rebelled against Christianity until she was in college. In December 1858, she received Christ and was baptized at First Baptist Church, Charlottesville, Virginia. Lottie attended... are we good up there? Okay. Lottie attended Albemarle Female Institute, the female counterpart to the University of Virginia. In 1861, she was one of the first women in the South to receive a master's degree. She stayed close to home during the Civil War, but eventually taught school in Kentucky, Georgia, and Virginia. Edmonia Moon, Lottie's sister, was appointed to Tangchao, China in 1872, and the following year, Lottie was appointed and joined her sister there. Lottie served 39 years as a missionary, mostly in China's Shengtu tongue. I'm pronouncing these wrong. I don't speak Chinese, okay? Province. She taught at girls' school and often made trips into China's interior to share the good news with women and girls. Lottie Moon was passionate about people knowing Christ, and she didn't hesitate to speak her mind. When she set sail for China, Lottie was 32 years old. She had turned down a marriage proposal and left her job, home, and family to go to China. Her path wasn't typical for an educated woman from a wealthy southern family, but God had gripped her with the Chinese people's need for a savior. For 39 years, Lottie labored chiefly in Tengchao and Pingtu. People feared and rejected her, but she refused to leave. The aroma of fresh-baked cookies is what drew people to her house. As a way to earn the trust of people, Lottie Moon made tea cakes for the children in her village in China. She would then be invited into homes where she could share the gospel with their mothers. The children began calling Lottie the Cookie Lady. She adopted traditional Chinese dress, and she learned China's language and customs. Lottie just didn't just serve the people of China, she identified with them. Many eventually accepted her, and some accepted her savior. Lottie wrote letters home detailing China's hunger for truth and the struggle of so few missionaries taking the gospel to the 472 million Chinese of her day. Today, the Chinese number over 1.9 billion. So, quite a difference. She also shared the urgent need for more workers and for Baptists to support them through prayer and giving. She once wrote home to the Foreign Mission Board saying, "Please say to the new missionaries they are coming to a life of hardship, responsibility, and constant self-denial." Disease, turmoil, and lack of co-workers threatened to undo Lottie's work, but she gave herself completely to God, helping lay the foundation of one of the fastest-growing Christian movements in the world. Lottie Moon died at 72, ill and in declining health after decades of ministering to her beloved Chinese. Lottie frequently sent letters back home detailing Chinese culture, missionary life, and the physical and spiritual needs of the Chinese people. Additionally, she challenged Baptists to go to China or to give so that others could go. And by 1888, Baptist women had organized and helped collect $3,315 to send to workers needed in China. She's also there's like a yearly offering that I think the Southern Baptists have that goes towards a mission work in China that is named after her. And her letters can actually be found online as well. All of her letters that she would send back, they've been digitally copied down, so you can read those too. It's kind of interesting. So she had like a specific recipe for those cookies, and they have that recipe as well. So like if that's something you want to do,
I feel like that's a great missionary approach, you know?
Yeah, cookies. Hey, you know what?
We do the same thing on the bus route.
People give the bus workers a hard time because, you know, you're bribing. It's not a bribe, but at the same time, well,
it's not a bribe.
It's
bribe is something that you'd give somebody to do something wrong.
Right.
It's not a bribe.
An incentive to do right.
It could be an incentive. Yeah,
Right.
It's compelling.
Yeah.
Well, think of this. What did the Lord say that the streets of gold are paved, or the streets of heaven are paved with?
Yeah,
Something
gold.
that to him, not I would imagine,
to him
is
is
of little
useless.
value.
Yeah.
Little value.
Not like it is to us.
Right. So, anyway, those are two missionaries that were both missionaries to China, devoted their entire lives. And Hutson Taylor was an animal.
Yeah, I never really viewed him quite
Yeah.
in that manner, but yeah, he's crazy.
I mean, considering the work that he started there, and then all the inroads to the interior, because most of the missionary work up to the point that he was all down in the main cities, down on the coastline, but no one had attempted to reach the interiors. I mean, you're talking about China, the landmass of way larger than the landmass of the United States. So we're talking thousands of miles going into the interior, mountains, deserts. And a lot of people don't seem to realize that China is a huge. I mean, everybody thinks they all live in the main cities, but there are millions upon millions of people that don't live anywhere near a large city.
Is China bigger than the U.S.? Landmass? I thought it was
Landmass-wise.
Russia, America.
Pretty sure.
China.
Well, the
Because we have
continental
Alaska
United
and-
States.
Yeah,
but if
okay.
we're including Alaska, then no. But it's larger than the continental United States. But as far as height and width of it, as far as north, south, and east, west dimensions. It's slightly larger. But I mean, you think about all the pioneers that we had who came from the East Coast and had to go all the way to the West Coast, and how long it took them just to make one trip, when there was no prepared path, nothing like that. Now, of course, China is one of the most ancient civilizations out there, and they, of course, have, roads, I guess. So it's not like no one had ever been there or traveled that, but no foreign mission had ever gone into the interior.
A pioneer, I think that's a really good way of describing Hutson Taylor, who's sort of like that pioneer missionary. And I feel like those who are pioneers in their calls of ministry, whether it's being a missionary or whatever, I feel like they have some sort of a tenacity about them that others don't have. You know, I don't know if that's just a personality thing. I don't know if that's because they're trailblazers. You know, it's sort of like they're going to get something done regardless of how your feelings are.
Feels,
they're just they're gonna get it done. And I think people can view that one of the two ways. They can either view it as a hindrance, or they can get on board and get stuff done. You know, but I think Hutson Taylor. One thing I find interesting as we go through all of these different characters, we've talked about people who have been missionaries. We've talked about people who have started orphanages. We've talked about people who have started churches, started a state. Done all of these different things. But in every single case, they were always met with difficulties.
Yeah, huge obstacles.
Huge obstacles that they had to overcome. And I think one of the things that I think about today one of the reasons I'm worried for America is, I was thinking while you're reading the monologue about Hutson Taylor and all the difficulties that he had to face. What if it was reversed? What if let's say people in other countries were sending missionaries to America? What would be their number one thing? What would they be telling their missionaries to avoid? And I feel like America it's so difficult because you would get swallowed up, not so much by the difficulties. Yeah, there are difficulties, but by the money and by the ease of things. You could totally get off track. And I feel like that's where churches in America have to be careful, because you can get so comfortable, you have no sacrifice. And unless
I think some of that also filters over into some of the missionaries that you'll see today. I read a tweet earlier this week. I just read it to David. I saw it and I was like, I just read it to him. I said, I read the tweet out, and it basically said, hey, we basically, they were talking about the blessing of having more churches taking them on for support. But they were like, we're at such and such % of our support. Like they were identifying that, we want to get to 100%. And just that attitude of, I have to have 100% in order to, and here's the thing, they weren't going to another country. They were actually starting a church here in the States. So raising support to go start a church here in the States. But it's just one of those things where I feel like sometimes there's that lack of just go. Like him being on the mission field. We've heard of so many other missionaries where they're on the field or they're on their way and they're like, okay, well, you know what? I realize there's something wrong, and so I'm going to pull away from this missionary board that I was on, and now I have to try and figure out how to pay for everything. He really did the same thing. And by giving those when he started his mission board or mission work, whatever you want to call it, and he gave it its name, he basically said, you aren't promised a salary, and you can't go be asking for a salary. Could you imagine? I mean, having to be that kind of a Christian, that's like, you can't be going around asking people for money. You figure out how to get it done here on the field. And then he specifically said, China is not to be won for Christ by quiet, ease-loving men and women.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about in your face.
Yeah, and he said that to the London board, right?
Yeah, that's who he was writing to,
like, hey guys,
to London.
Don't send me wimps.
Yeah.
But I mean, and honestly, between him and Lottie Moon, the next one, she said pretty much the same exact thing.
True. They were both very passionate
the both of their experience had to center it around to get the job done. You've got to not think about yourself. It's not about you. It's about your work that you're doing.
Right.
And honestly, that's a lot of the problem with the young people in Christianity today, is they think it's all about the fame, the glory, and but not about the work. It's like they might see the big ministries out there, but those big ministries didn't get there by
It's
sitting on
almost
their hands.
it's almost that we have been so taken care of that making sure that your needs are going to be met has taken preeminence over making sure that you are doing the Lord's work.
Right.
And it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters if you're a missionary or if you're starting a church here in America or if you're a bus captain or if you're a Sunday school teacher. It doesn't matter what area of ministry that you're working in. It's that passion that you need to capture of, yeah, I'm going to try to do my best to make sure that my family's taken care of, and then I'm trying to meet the needs. But what takes preeminence is doing the Lord's work, no matter what happens. I am going, and I'm not going to tiptoe around trying to make sure that, I've got all of these different things that I don't necessarily need, whether it's financially or whatever it might be. Just serve the Lord. Get in, get your hands dirty, and start working for the Lord. So often I think we have in our minds a preference or an idea of what the ministry should be, rather than just jumping in and saying, whatever it is, I'm up for the challenge because I'm walking hand in hand with the Lord.
Yeah.
That's what these characters that we've been speaking about captured. Lottie Moon, Hutson Taylor, both of them captured
And
that.
I think in a balanced viewpoint as well is to look at, here's the thing. They most likely accomplished a lot for the Lord, and we want to look at that. But we also want to identify those areas that perhaps the balance of a Christian life was not there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, for instance, in the case of Lottie Moon, she actually, I think she initially went with a mission board or whatever, but she constantly went against what they told her to do. So it was one of those things where, as far as being underneath someone in authority, I wouldn't exactly say that's the right decision, right thing to do. Now, did she accomplish a lot? Yes. But we're not, part of accomplishing things for Christ is about doing it God's way. Mm-hmm. And if we step outside of those bounds, especially in the roles of leadership, now if your leadership is telling you to smoke a cigar,
Right.
obviously, and you see a lot of people who went under certain mission boards and broke off of them because they saw, but that's what you do. You just break off of them. You don't. Does that make sense? Does
Yeah,
that make
and
sense
I
what I'm
think
trying to
there's-
say? I'm not saying that her work is just totally null and void because she went as a single woman and wasn't underneath anybody. And,
Well, I do think that there is a danger to imagining that if you're going to do something good or something great for the Lord, then you better be butting heads and you better be difficult and you better
Right.
be sacrificing
Right.
and your family better be dying.
Right.
Well, Hudson Taylor lost how many of his wife and 4 kids out of the 8 kids?
3. Well, yeah, 4, I think.
No, 4
kids.
I guess the balanced view is not saying go out there and sacrifice.
Right.
The balanced view is saying just follow the word of God, follow God's leading, and that means at times submitting to authority that God has put over your life,
Right.
getting out of your head what you think you should be doing, how it should be happening, but being willing to sacrifice. But don't be, obviously, we got not to be looking to try to make our life difficult.
Right.
And especially when it comes to things like our authority or where God has placed us in a
Or what
ministry
biblical
or
leadership is.
Right.
Right.
You got to know your Bible.
Right. So.
Well, but
This is where Pastor would jump
Yeah,
in. And
exactly.
He would say something, and we would all be like, "Oh yeah," and continue talking for another half an hour. But it is 5:56, so we could.
Okay,
Oh,
here
yeah.
we go.
Oh,
Here we
look,
go.
there he is.
I'll
There
read
he
this.
is.
It is hard to be an accurate Monday morning quarterback. I totally respect the fact that they were some of the first to do what they did. So agreed. I mean, can you imagine being the first to a country? You think of Hudson Taylor, and that really was at the beginning of when you could say the West's when the places like Chinese came into the West consciousness of they need a missionary, they need someone to go. So, and that's what they did. They just went.
Right. He got something done. She got something done.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we can sit here and look back, and it's obviously impossible to know all the
always-
circumstances. And
you can always pick apart someone's life
and no one's
after
perfect.
the fact,
Yeah,
right?
and no one is perfect.
No,
Not
no.
one of these characters that we've talked about
Nope.
is perfect. They all have flaws in different
Right.
areas, but so do we. It doesn't mean you have to ignore the flaws, but it does mean that you have to give a certain area of grace.
Yeah.
Space of grace to people in that. And now I'm not talking about doctrinal, they but I'm talking about some of those, Hudson Taylor was just too he was too hard. He was
Right.
too whatever. Stuff like that. It's
Hudson
like,
Taylor
he got something done though.
grew his hair out as a pony, had a ponytail.
Did he? I don't know what he looked like. Yeah,
he did that because that was the tradition and customs of
China.
Of China, and so he wanted to be accepted, which it was met with a lot of
suspicion, actually.
a lot of
Chinese part.
a suspicion
you
on the Chinese
touched on it
part
a couple weeks ago, I think.
Suspicion on the Chinese part, but also the people he was being sent by were like, "What are you?
Yeah.
What are you doing?"
So there was some give and take, but it also opened some roads to him after a time
Yeah. So
that probably would not have been opened otherwise. So again, we can pick apart what he did,
Right.
but it might not be necessarily what I would do, but it worked. God used him in the way that he worked.
here's another interesting fact. So he died in 1905. Hudson Taylor. World War I began in 1914. Just like the amount of time that he lived, of course, but then when he died, thinking you were born in the same century as
That he-
Hudson, that he died.
that he died in, yes.
Yeah. I mean, just to think about that, it really wasn't that long ago that Hudson Taylor was.
Oh, compared to
Doing-
the other men?
Yeah, compared to the
we've
people that
talked
we've
about,
been
yeah.
talking about. I mean, 1905.
Well, we're only removed by 100 or so years.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, just an interesting thought.
Pastor's on there giving us another chat. He said, "What we know today, we have less excuses. Let's ask ourselves how many trailblazers there are today. Many of
good.
these people rejected things later in their lives, which is the complete opposite of what is happening now. What is happening now in America and in foreign fields are people, servants of the Lord, are getting older and getting more lax in their standards and in what they are accepting. But in the old days, what goes back to that statement, direction determines destination. A lot of these characters, we are talking about certain parts of their lives that they're sort of known for, but their direction that they were going, a lot of them, the older they got, the closer that they got to a lot of the Baptist distinctives that we hold to, or some of the standards, short hair on men and things like that. They began to slowly adopt those things. But today, it's the complete opposite. It's like you are...
The older you get, the
older
further
you
away
get,
you leave from those things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a shame.
It is.
Shows you the direction that most people are going if they are getting more mature in their Christianity and losing standards and dropping things, then should tell you where their destination someday will be.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, that was a good across the Jordan, and we're happy that Pastor will be with us next week to help us fill in some of those blank spaces. But for now, we're going to go ahead and go to our next song. It is "As a Volunteer" by Shawnee Baptist College. The song was requested by Hannah. We'll be right back. Welcome to The Pulp. Some people love it, others hate it. Either way, you can count on us talking about it. And because right before we came back from the song, David said, "I know what I'm going to say." Going straight to you.
I basically said I don't know what I'm going to say, but I sort of
I guess I didn't hear that.
No, I said I do have a pulp, but it's kind of generic. I'm just going to say it.
Go for it.
We talked about the rain already, but that is my pulp. It's been really dry the last month and a half. Haven't really got much moisture. Moisture. So the snow and the rain, although it's been kind of irritating when we've been outside, it is needed, and it is good. Especially since I feel like the last 2 weeks, it has been cloudy and overcast, but it hasn't rained.
Yeah.
It's like annoying. So that's my pulp, rain. So I'm doing it good. I did a positive today.
Yeah, it's good.
Some people hate it. Some people
Love it.
Some people love it. Depends
Some
on
people
what
love it
you're
and
doing.
hate it.
So when
Me,
it's
if I just got my car washed and it rained, then
we were just
that's what
talking
just
before the
happened.
show about how it'd be so nice to be on like a porch, an enclosed porch, and hearing the rain and have a big blanket and just be lulled
book.
to sleep. Yes, and a good book. See, that's how you love the rain.
Yeah,
And how you hate the rain is when you're outside trying to throw junk away and
Into the trailer.
And every time you walk underneath one of those awnings, it drips
drips
down
on your head
or on your bed,
on your
down
neck. Yeah.
It's terrible. It's terrible. Peter,
Well, mine is gloves this week.
Oh yes.
Some people
Love it,
love
hate
them.
it, or
Some
hate it?
people
Yes.
hate them, or you can love them and hate them at the same time. But obviously, all this week we've been over at the corner property next door, and I would highly recommend wearing gloves and a bodysuit and a hazmat suit
Yeah.
when walking through there
You never know.
at all times. But you know what? gloves are annoying too because sometimes I was like, oh, I got to get my keys out of my pocket or whatever, and then you got to pull the thing off, and then you put it, and you got to put it back on, and it's just a mess. And then when your gloves get soaked out in the rain or in the snow, and then your hands are freezing even though you've got gloves on, you're like, okay, I need these on.
I hate pork quality gloves.
Pork
Not
quality?
pork quality.
Ooh, bacon. These are great. They're gone in an instant.
Yeah. No, because I bought 2 weeks ago. I bought these gloves, and like
The same day.
it was literally the
Same day you ripped
same
them.
day.
Yeah.
They're ripped to shreds. I mean, and they were like $16. They were expensive gloves. But I mean, I am hard on those gloves, but still,
Shouldn't
got
be a
holes.
day.
And, yeah. Part of it is the type of glove that I prefer to wear. Like they have like the all leather. Those are usually a little bit more sturdy, can last a little bit longer. I like they're almost like mechanic / what are they like? They're almost like everything gloves. They're fabric, but they also
General
have
purpose gloves.
general purpose, but they also have some of the extra padding like on the palm area but I can get a good fit. Like I feel like I can grab things with those, but they're not always the sturdiest because they're cloth and they just get ripped easily. So I don't know. Someday I'm going to find like the perfect glove. Someday. What's your pulp? You don't have a pulp.
I don't really, but I'm just going to say something.
Oh, I got a pulp for you.
Refrigerators.
Oh, what's mine? Oh, yeah, that is a good one. That is a good one. So, actually, I had a different one. And it's like right there, but now I can't remember.
Now you
it.
can't remember?
Yeah.
Keys?
So, no, keys.
Keys. All that whole box of keys.
Oh,
we
no,
have.
not the keys.
Haven't gone through those yet. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's a hate that pulp. That's what that
Yeah.
is. Okay. So, I like to get my hair cut usually every 2 weeks. I mean, that's what I would prefer. But when you're paying $20
Ugh.
every time you get your hair cut, it's really just like, seriously. Like, I'm going broke here. And then, on top of that, I'm not going broke, but you know what I'm saying. You're like, really? And then on top of that, your barber is like never open. So you're like hitting a miss on whether or not you can get in. So I'm literally going to the barber once a month. So, but it's like, I would really like to be able to. So anyway, I broke down this last week and I said,
Started crying.
yes, I did. I cried. I cried. And I told Kaylee, I said, hey, you're going to cut my hair. I didn't ask. I just said, you're going to cut my hair. And so I went to the store, I spent 2 haircuts worth of money on a set of clippers. And I was like, you know what? we're doing this. And, of course, she's never cut hair with clippers before, so it was an interesting. We had David over the same night. We did dinner and stuff, and Kaylee cut my hair, and that was an entertaining. I don't feel like it's too bad.
It's not
I mean,
horrible.
It's not bad.
It's not horrible. Like if she cuts a few more times, I feel like you'd have barber quality cuts right there.
Exactly.
And I mean, think about how much money is that? Now, if I was Kaylee, I would be like, okay, you got to pay me $20 every time I cut
Oh,
you.
praise the Lord! Wait, I hope she's not listening to this. Anyway, so that's my you could say pulp for the day. I'm thankful for that. I'm gonna save some money.
Cool.
Yeah, and then I can get it cut every week. I mean, come on,
could.
Yeah. Fresh
Just have
cut
to
all the
convince her.
time, always fresh.
Well, you better have a good relationship with Kaylee.
Yeah, I'd be like,
I think they had an
Oops.
argument this
You can
week.
tell how good the relationship is depending on
Based
his
on my
haircut.
haircut, yeah.
That'd be funny.
Really was stretching my faith though. Actually, it wasn't bad. I was sitting there and okay. So here's the one thing I
She
told her.
only
I
said,
said
oops twice.
I said because there were sometimes she would like turn the clippers a different way, which she's never used clippers before. So she turned the clippers a different way, and I'd be like trying to gently say, "Don't do that." Because when you've had that many haircuts, you grow up having haircuts. You
have
know,
an idea of
you
what's
know how
supposed
it feels to get a haircut, and so you're like, okay, this is not the way clippers is pushed. It's like hold still. So it wasn't that bad, but yeah.
I
So
mean, you just get the high and tight marine cut. You never have to worry about
just yeah,
Shave it
buzz
all off.
Just buzz it.
Use a 1 on top and a 0 on the sides.
I was shocked because I was over there. I'm like, what if she messes this thing up? He's just like, oh, I'll just buzz it. I'm
Yeah.
like, who am I talking to here? Yeah, I don't
What did you
think
do
so.
with my brother?
I didn't think she
Yeah.
would buzz it. I didn't think she'd do a bad job. So it's all good.
Oh, fresh bread.
Fresh bread. That's
Okay.
Is that that's dad's pulp? Is fresh bread?
Fresh
he
bread.
Loves
He
fresh
loves
bread?
fresh bread.
Or is that
Fresh bread. Fresh bread.
bread?
From,
How can you
from
flat
where?
top?
be a pulp? Oh, flat,
Flat top.
Was it
Oh.
supposed to be flat
Oh,
top
it
and
was
it autocorrected it to fresh bread? I don't know what to think anymore.
I always hated those haircuts as a kid that were fresh bread haircuts.
They're a lumpy on top
Something like that.
with the crease or the cut down the middle.
Yes.
Anyway, okay. That's it. I don't got anything else.
Fresh haircut.
Fresh bread,
Dad-
flat top, fresh
Dad,
haircut.
you need to start typing in sentences.
I know.
Speak in
I'm-
sentences here.
I'm
not
so confused. Let's just continue on here. How about that? Now let's do that. David, do you have the verse for today? Peter, do you have the verse?
John 3:16.
No.
Yeah, I'll have a
Okay,
verse
David's
by
got
the
some
time
verse. Thank you for joining us for this week's episode of The Brook. It's been a rough one this week with some few technical difficulties, and I don't know what's wrong with my mouth this week. I cannot talk. I think, okay, so I had some go-go juice before. Your Bible's not working.
It's not working.
It's one of those days. Thanks for
Nothing is
joining us.
working here.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you'll join us again next week, same time, same place for another fun-filled show. David, Peter, JT, thank you for a meh broadcast. You can find this show in podcast form on our website, on YouTube, and on iTunes next week. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you joined us today on YouTube. And before we go, we would like to leave you with this week's verse.
Proverbs chapter 12, verse 17. He that speaketh truth showeth forth righteousness, but a false witness deceit.
That's good. That was just the top verse that it showed to you, the verse of the day. That's great. And with that, we're going to play the final song, To Count for Jesus by the Epleys. We'll see you next week.
The Brook, a ministry of North Platte Baptist Church.